Hey friends, it's Pastor Scott. It is time for small groups that are making a great impact. So excited as we gather in our life groups this week. We're getting closer to Thanksgiving, a lot of things that are going on. What a wonderful time. I would ask that you'd be remembering our family in prayer. We right now, probably as you're meeting for the group on Saturday, November 23rd, coming up, we're going to be in Austin, Texas for our son Josiah's wedding. So our second born is getting married, and so we're going to be down there. So a lot of changes, a lot of fun things that are happening in life. And so in your prayer time, remember us in prayer. Remember also to continue praying for one another. Continue to use your life group time. Take advantage of, you are surrounded by people that love you and care about you. Bring your prayer requests to one another and share those things. And one of the things that I shared with all of the group leaders when we met back in August and the groups were getting started is, make your group time a place that is safe to share, but also if there's deeper things and ways that maybe people in your group need to connect with me for some pastoral counseling, for individual encouragement, maybe their family's going through something, or just some marriage guidance, that kind of thing, that's always available as well. So I just want to put that out there, that through these groups, it creates an incredible network of care and support and discipleship. This week we are looking at an incredible passage. It shows up in 2 Kings chapter 5. And it's really a cool cycle. 1st and 2nd Kings, two of the featured prophets there are Elijah, and then Elijah passes on the mantle of prophet to Elisha. So we're looking at the work of Elisha the prophet tonight, specifically as he works with a gentleman called Naaman, or Naaman the Syrian. So Naaman is a pretty interesting guy. It says that he is the leader of the armies of Syria. He is a very high-ranking official. He also is a personal servant to the king of the Aramaean people. But he's got a skin condition. He's got leprosy. And it is creating a lot of problems for him. Well, through the understanding with a servant girl, and you'll read the story in 2 Kings 5 in your group, he hears about Elisha the prophet and thinks, wow, this is great. I need to go and visit him so I can deal with this issue. So he shows up, he's ready. He's expecting the prophet's going to come out. He's going to maybe do a dance or some magical spell or something like that. He's all ready. And so the word comes to the prophet, and Elisha's just in the house. Naaman is outside. And Elisha just says, tell him to go dip in the Jordan River. What? That's it? And Naaman really is taken back. He's like, what do you mean? The Jordan River. Now, understand that in the ancient world, a lot of these major civilizations were built around large, mighty rivers. The Egyptian civilization built around the Nile River. Babylon that was built around the Tigris and the Euphrates. So in that part of the world, there were some incredible large rivers. But in Israel, the promised land where God brought his people, there's really just one river, the Jordan. And it's not much of a river. In fact, really, it's about the size of the Boise River, maybe even smaller, because what you have is a series of 4 springs that feed into this river, and it goes and empties into the Sea of Galilee, and then flows south from there down to the Dead Sea, where the water just stops and evaporates. So it doesn't flow to the ocean, it doesn't go very far, it's a smaller river, a shorter river, but that becomes an important site for a couple of things in the scriptures. The Jordan River stopped up when the people enter the promised land. So there's a lot of things going on. And of course, we have in the New Testament, that's where Jesus is baptized by John the Baptist. In any case, this river doesn't impress Naaman the Syrian at all. He's thinking, there's much bigger rivers back home in Damascus. This is it? That's all I do? But he says, okay, I'll give it a try. So he dips 7 times in the water. And when he comes up, he's healed. He's clean. So God does an incredible miracle, but he does the miracle for this Gentile. It's interesting. He's not a child of Abraham. He's not one of the 12 tribes of Israel. He's a foreigner. He's a Gentile. And the idea of Naaman, he's become kind of known in Jewish literature as what's called a Tashav Ger, or a half-Gentile. He didn't convert to Judaism, but here's what he does. After this whole experience, he says, I will now worship only the God of Israel. I will worship Yahweh, and He will be the one that receives my worship. So he doesn't go through the full steps of conversion, but he does say, I've become a God-fearer. I'm going to worship the God of Israel. So he decides to head back home, but there's an interesting thing at the end of the story. He says to Elisha, here's what I want to take home with me. He doesn't take souvenirs or anything like that, but he wants to take 2 loads of dirt, soil from the land of Israel, and have 2 donkeys that can carry it back to his hometown. He recognizes something about the promised land. And he says, when I get back home, I'm going to continue worshiping the God of Israel, but I want there to be this land that I can worship from. He's kind of creating like a portable shrine that he's bringing back home. So this Naaman the Syrian actually becomes part of a story in a sermon that Jesus tells. In Luke chapter 4, when Jesus is preaching at the synagogue at Nazareth, he references Naaman the Syrian, and he references the widow in Sidon. And he says to the Jewish people that he's preaching to, you look back and remember when Elijah was working in Israel, it was only this widow in Sidon, a foreigner, a Phoenician, that was given bread. And it was only Naaman the Syrian that was healed. And he also was a Gentile. And he's challenging the people of Nazareth. Do you also have eyes to see that God wants to bless not just the Israelite people, but the people of all the nations? It's a mission story. Naaman the Syrian becomes a representative of God's heart for the nations. And so Jesus incorporates him in his sermon. Here's the interesting thing. The people of Nazareth, when they hear his sermon, they say, wow, this is amazing. What great preaching. Isn't this Jesus the carpenter? Whoa, we're so impressed with who he is. Until he mentions these 2 Gentiles, and then they get mad and they toss him out of the synagogue and they threaten even to kill him. Here's something for us to think about. How do we do at dealing with people that are not like us? They come from different places. Maybe they speak a different language. Maybe they voted for somebody that we didn't like. Maybe they have different views. Are we able to see the image of God in them? Or would we like God to just bless us and the people that are like us? The story that shows up in 2 Kings and the story that Jesus draws from it challenges us to think God is one that wants to bless people from all the nations of the earth. Let's keep that in mind in our group reading as we look at these scriptures and think about Naaman the Syrian. God be with you as you read through these passages.